All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today we're tackling one of history's absolute most persistent cartographic mysteries, the famous 1513 Piri Reis map and its supposed connection to a hidden, ice-free Antarctica. It's a claim that's captivated imaginations for decades, mixing actual Renaissance mapmaking with deep geologic time. So we're going to systematically break this down and see what the evidence actually tells us.
Here's our roadmap for today. We're covering the Piri Reis mystery, cartography of the unknown, that famous 1960 seismic claim, ice weight and tectonics, what satellites reveal, and finally, science over pseudoscience. Let's get into it. Starting right off with Section 1, the Piri Reis mystery.
So picture this. How in the world could a map from 1513 seemingly depict a continent that wasn't officially discovered until 1820? That provocative question is really the core of the fringe narrative surrounding Ottoman Admiral Piri Reis' famous world map. Because on the surface, the map shows South America and this mysterious southern landmass connecting to it. And for a lot of people, the accuracy of the South American coastline is just so undeniable for its time that it leads them to make a massive leap in logic about what that southern landmass must actually be.
This specific idea was heavily popularized by historian Charles Hapgood. He championed the theory that a prehistoric, highly advanced seafaring culture mapped the world's coastlines, including, you guessed it, an ice-free Antarctica, thousands of years before modern history even began. Hapgood theorized that Piri Reis must have compiled his 1513 map using much older source documents from this lost civilization, showing the continent as it looked maybe 10,000 years ago. And it's an incredibly intoxicating narrative. But, as we're going to see, it misses a massive piece of historical context.
Which brings us to Section 2, cartography of the unknown.
To really understand this map, we have to talk about Terra Australis. See, medieval and Renaissance cartographers had this well-documented, kind of quirky preoccupation with global balance. They essentially posited that, if there are massive continents up in the northern hemisphere, there mathematically must be an equivalent landmass in the southern hemisphere to balance the whole globe out. It's like a giant geological seesaw in their minds. So cartographers included this speculative landmass simply because they believed global geography required physical symmetry. They were drawing coastlines stretching out from South America or Africa entirely from their own imaginations, not from any sort of ancient seafaring observation.
And the cracks in that ancient civilization theory become pretty glaring when you actually read the text translated directly from the map itself. First off, the Piri Reis map physically connects this southern land directly to South America. But it gets better. It describes the climate as hot and literally notes that large snakes and six-horned oxen live there. Now, I don't know about you, but that doesn't exactly sound like an Ice Age Antarctica. Historians classify the map's vague resemblance to Antarctica as classic survivorship bias. Think about it. Modern history has thousands of maps created based on the Terra Australis hypothesis. Statistically speaking, it's completely expected that at least one of these imaginary coastlines would coincidentally resemble actual geography.
Moving on to Section 3, the 1960 seismic claim.
So to fairly assess this theory, we absolutely have to examine its strongest piece of supporting evidence. In 1960, Charles Hapgood reached out to the U.S. Hydrographic Office to evaluate his theory, and he got back this genuinely surprising letter from U.S. Air Force Lieutenant Colonel Harold Z. Ohlmeyer. This letter basically provides the steelman foundation for all these fringe claims. Ohlmeyer compared the map to a 1949 seismic profile of the sub-glacial Princess Martha Coast and concluded that the bedrock beneath the ice perfectly matched the 1513 map. He claimed it proved the coastline was mapped before the ice cap formed. For theorists, boom, this was the smoking gun.
But let's look at Section 4, ice weight and tectonics.
Let's see how that 1960 claim holds up when we apply the hard laws of geological physics. The fundamental error in Ohlmeyer's analysis lies in one massive geological assumption. He believed the bedrock profile we see beneath today's ice is exactly what the coastline looked like before the ice formed. But the geological reality is vastly different. Antarctica holds 90% of the world's ice. That immense weight, literally miles of solid ice, actually compresses the entire Antarctic tectonic plate deep into the Earth's mantle. It fundamentally alters the very shape of the bedrock.
We call this the isostatic rebound effect. So massive ice sheets form, averaging about 2 kilometers in thickness. That extreme weight literally pushes the continent down, warping the bedrock to accommodate the crushing mass. Actually, if that ice were somehow magically removed, or if we were looking at it before the ice formed, the landmass would bounce back upwards. It's an isostatic rebound, creating a completely different coastline. So the absolute crucial takeaway here is that a prehistoric ice-free map of Antarctica wouldn't look anything like the modern sub-glacial seismic profile that Ohlmeyer measured back in 1949. The bedrock he scanned was shaped by the ice itself. This entirely debunks the map's supposed perfect match.
Let's jump to Section 5. Satellites reveal true history.
Leaving the 16th century behind for a minute, let's look at what modern high-tech tools actually reveal beneath the frozen surface. Unlike the limited point data tools they had in the 1960s, today we use gravity and magnetic field tomography to map the deep crust. It's incredible. This data from beneath Lake Vostok, which is this massive subglacial reservoir in East Antarctica, allows us to map subglacial faults, ancient suture zones, and hidden lakes with astonishing precision. And we can do it without ever having to drill through the 2 kilometers of ice sitting on top of it.
Through systems like Canada's RadarSat and incredibly sophisticated radar echo sounding, scientists can track the exact flow of the ice sheet over millions of years. And what's really mind-blowing here is that beneath the ice, they've uncovered an ancient river-carved terrain literally the size of Wales. This isn't just some recent freeze. We are looking at totally undisturbed ice layers and a subglacial landscape of valleys, ridges, and channels that have been locked away for epochs.
34 million. That is the number of years ago the East Antarctic ice sheet began forming as global temperatures plummeted. To put that into perspective, this data thoroughly, undeniably shatters the myth of an ice-free coastline existing just 10,000 years ago, during early human civilization. The deep antiquity of this ice sheet proves, for sure, that no human, advanced or otherwise, was sailing around an ice-free Antarctica.
Finally, Section 6, Science over Pseudoscience.
When we contrast these popular internet narratives with established scientific reality, the truth becomes glaringly obvious. I mean, internet theorists absolutely love to point to satellite anomalies and call them secret bases, alien pyramids, or giant carved faces. But geologists recognize these phenomena easily. Pyramids, those are just pyramidal peaks formed by completely standard freeze-thaw glacial weathering, literally exactly like the Matterhorn in the Swiss Alps. The giant faces, that's just pareidolia. It's a psychological phenomena where our brains desperately try to recognize familiar patterns in random, wind-carved snow. And those spooky geometric doorways? Yeah, that's simply melting ice exposing natural ridges or highly localized geothermal spots.
Furthermore, we really have to respect the sheer, brutal physical logistics of Antarctica. It contains 90% of the world's freshwater ice. We're talking ice sheets averaging 1 to 2 kilometers thick. It is profoundly isolated with deadly freezing temperatures. Honestly, just to operate there today requires massive, modern, state-backed logistics just to survive a basic research season. It is utterly, completely inhospitable to the establishment of secret ancient civilizations, hidden military bases, or underground societies. The environment is simply too severe.
Which leads us to our final thought for this explainer. Why cling to a debunked 16th century map myth or internet conspiracies about alien pyramids when the actual scientific reality, a 34-million-year-old lost world of ancient rivers and subglacial lakes hidden beneath 2 kilometers of ice, is infinitely more fascinating? As we wrap up, we're left to marvel at the true geological wonders resting quietly beneath the ice. It's a great reminder that sometimes the real science is the most captivating story of all.